Well, 2024 is going to be a tough but fun year of travel and football for the Georgia Bulldogs. The 2024 SEC opponents have finally been announced. They were announced on the SEC Network Wednesday night. Texas and Oklahoma added to the conference, getting rid of divisions. There's a lot of wrinkles to this, and we know who Georgia's going to play now. Texas on the road, Alabama on the road, Ole Miss on the road, Kentucky on the road, Auburn at home, Tennessee at home, neutral sites against Florida, Clemson. A lot of heavy hitters on Georgia's schedule in 2024. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's exciting me just to think about how fun that's all going to be to watch, right? I mean, getting Oklahoma and Texas in the conference, the expansion, the college football playoffs is going to be different. 2024 will be a new look year for college football, and especially the SEC. College football has been changing every single year, right? But I think 2024, it's going to be, whoa, this is not what it was, because the playoff, the conference changes. You got UCLA and USC doing their thing with the Big Ten. That's going to happen. We'll see if that happens by 24, right? Ron Curley from Dog Post here. Talking about Georgia's schedule real quick. Look, I'm pimping out some Red Zone products, and I opened up the packaging. It's a back-to-back flag, and I opened it up, and it's huge. So if you want this, I'm going to link this down below. Back-to-back national championship flag, or you can get it at the Red Zone. This thing's huge. All right, Texas, that road trip to Texas, right off the bat, 2024, they're going to go, and they're going to play the Longhorns in Austin. You've got to imagine that's going to be some sort of 3:30 or primetime kick on ESPN, ABC in a couple years. The thing that surprised me the most was going to Alabama, right? Having them go both to Alabama, to Texas in this inaugural year, it's definitely going to be tough on Georgia. Now, here's the thing. We don't know what these teams are in 2024, because guess what? We don't know what they are in 2023 yet, right? A little secret. I think Georgia's going to make the playoffs. I have a feeling about a lot of teams, but we don't really know what's going to happen in 2023. 2024, we know even less. So they're going to kick the season off against Clemson. You're going to get that neutral site game in Atlanta. I think Georgia will be better than Clemson in 2024. It'll probably be Cade Klubnik, right? That would be his junior year. And Dabo, I think that Clemson's downfall has begun, right? I'm not saying it's this harsh downfall to being a bad football program, but what they accomplished in the 2010s, I don't think that's happening in the 2020s, right? Georgia's doing that. We'll see if there's some other teams that want to contend. I think LSU's going to get better, but Clemson, Georgia, that kickoff in Atlanta, a stadium that Georgia's familiar with, I think Georgia will take care of business there. Your home stretch, I think that Georgia will probably sweep the home stretch, but you keep the matchup with Auburn, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That was important, right, for history's sake, doing that. Tennessee, an improving football program, right? Tennessee could be a powerhouse in a couple years. Let's be honest, right? What Josh Heupel's done in a couple years, it's impressive. I think they dipped this year, but who knows what they do in 24. I'm not saying that they're going to be not as good in 2024. I just don't think they're going to be good this season. So we'll see. They could improve. That could be a real tough home matchup. We saw what Georgia did to them at home this year, right, when they were really, really good. So we'll see. You'll get a couple throwaways of Tennessee Tech, Massachusetts. Georgia should dominate Georgia Tech, right? Home is a lot more cut and dry. It's that road test. And then going to Ole Miss, too. Going to Ole Miss, Georgia will be a better football program than Ole Miss in 2024. I feel pretty confident sitting here and saying that right now. But going to Ole Miss as well is another wrinkle in this that there was an expectation that it was going to be Texas A&M, right? Because in the entirety of Texas A&M's existence in the SEC, their membership in the SEC, 12-ish years now, and Georgia hasn't gone there. And so that's been it's been a hot topic. A lot of people thought Georgia would end up going there in 2024. Not the case. Ole Miss instead. So you got the Rebels, the Longhorns, and the Tide on the road, as well as Kentucky. It's not easy to play Kentucky, right? We just witnessed that last year. It was freezing cold, a November game that was freezing cold. Kentucky's a physical football team, a physical football program. I don't think that just goes away in next year. I don't think they're just not a physical program. So the road test is tough. We already knew that Florida was going to be in Jacksonville, the Florida game, right? So you get 6 home games, likely, right? If the home schedule matches up the way I think you're going to have 6 home games, 4 road games, and 2 neutral sites for Georgia. So nothing crazy, but it's a colorful schedule. Let's put it that way. You can tell it's a colorful schedule, and coming out of that undefeated right now in this moment seems unlikely, right? And maybe we'll see. I think Georgia will be undefeated in 2023. I think that they're that good. Being undefeated 3 years in a row would be crazy, right? Because they did it in 2022 last season on their way to the second piece of that flag I just held up from the red zone. And so it's exciting. I almost don't have coherent thoughts about it yet because I think it's just going to be so much different, right? Now, guess what? The playoff is also different. So you can afford to lose a couple games, I think, to get into the college football playoff. Something that I was against, honestly. I wasn't a fan of the expansion at first. And I've come around to it a little bit, but the playoff expansion, I wasn't a fan of that, going from 4 to 12. I thought 6 or 8 would have been better just because I have a prediction that I think the 2 or 3 best teams are just going to steamroll through a lot of the talent every year in the playoff because it's not the NFL where the teams are way more even. In college football, there are more talent gaps. When you get a really good team, they're usually better than the other teams. We saw that last year. We saw that in 2019 with LSU, talent gap. We saw it in 2021. We see it almost every single year. You saw it in the 2010s, Clemson, Alabama. Domination. I don't see how that changes with the 12-team playoff. There's more money involved. There's more TV money involved. There's more money involved for the cities because you get that. So I understand that standpoint. I'm worried that there's going to be it's going to get diluted a little bit because you don't have to win every single game to make the playoff, right? Because there's not going to be 12 undefeated teams and there's not going to be 12 one-loss teams probably. There's going to be a couple teams in there that have lost 2 or 3 games in the playoff. And so for Georgia's sake, you look at the schedule, you can still win a national championship by losing to or Alabama and Texas, right? In the regular season. That's something that you're not rooting for that. You're not rooting for your team to lose to one of those, but I think that that's something to definitely think about when we're discussing, okay, what are their playoff chances when they have to play such a tough schedule? Now, this is going to be similar every single year because LSU, let's think about it now, the 16-team conference, who are the heavy hitters that Georgia's not playing on this? They're not playing LSU. They're not playing Oklahoma. That might be it. Really, as far as heavy hitters go. South Carolina's program should improve. I don't think they're going to be a powerhouse, but they should get a little bit better, right? If Beamer is the guy, they should inch closer and closer to being a better team. So 2024 maybe, but South Carolina, they're not on that schedule. So definitely, Greg McElroy called it a brutal schedule last night on the SEC Network broadcast, and I agree. It is brutal. It's exciting, right? Especially for all of you with some dough who can travel to all these games, right? And do that. It's going to be an incredible year of travel in 2024 for the Georgia Bulldogs, but a tough schedule. I think that they'll probably fare all right. All right, it's a couple years. It's next year. But Georgia, 2024, tough. Down below for that flag. Thanks for watching.